Hello world, Brian Lovelace here, back for the final part of my Code Compare video series, where we're going to go over the Python version of the TIP calculator. My personal opinion, between Java, JavaScript, and Python, I think I like Python the best. It's not quite as picky as Java, it's a little pickier than JavaScript. I think most of my fondness for it comes from doing the Python Koan challenge, Koans, as they were, adapted from the Ruby on Rails, likely due to the fact of the sheer number of Star Trek, Simpsons, and Monty Python jokes embedded in learning the program by completing those challenges. If you want to dive into Python, my suggestion is to find that and give it a whirl. If you haven't ever used Python before, simply go to python.org. There you can easily download it to your computer and find plenty of documentation and help to get you started. Make sure you're getting Python version 3. As of this year, Python 2 is no longer supported. So you're not going to have any more updates or debugs or anything coming out for Python 2. Join us in the new millennium. Let's get Python 3. You can see I've got a link to the first video in the series and now also a link to the site created in the second video series, the Bright Ugly Orange Tip Calculator, to prove that that is a live website still and just how easy it is to use GitHub pages. But since we already covered that in the previous videos, let's get down to the wonderful Python fun that we have right here. So this is technically going to work when we copy this, although we're going to have to deal with all this extra space, but that's all right. So from my command prompt terminal, I've navigated to an empty folder. It's just got some dots floating around inside it, so we are going to use Visual Studio Code again for this. There are several programs you can write Python programs in. PyCharm I've used, I love, but since we used Visual Studio Code earlier, let's keep it simple and not too complicated. So tip calc, we denote it Python with a .py. Now Visual Studio is going to do some magic and think for a minute and wonder if it's Python version 2 or version 3. So while that's loading up, we can go ahead and work on removing all these extra spaces. So we want everything lined up on the far edge, except we want one indentation from the while loop, and we want one indentation for all the lines after our if statements. That's just how Python likes to see things. I did say you can use my code as it is on my page to work for you. I didn't say it would be easy. Comments in Python are simply after a hashtag or the pound sign, if you will. So we've got our import and while lined up. Sys is simply needed so that we can exit the program gracefully. So it's probably not best practices for a real in-depth, involved application, but for our little tip calculator, it gets the job done nicely. I've got after the inputs, if you type a lowercase q, can quit at any point in time. Did change from the original ints I had to floats, since sometimes change is involved. We can't always get that magic $100 even bill at the restaurant. And I found this beautiful round function built in that will tack it down to 2 decimal places for us. So once you've got the code copied from the site, find the little green play button, just like we did for our Java, and it will start the while loop. So again, we enter the bill amount, our standard test case of the $100 bill and the 20% tip. Voila! We've got 20 coming back at us. That is good. The more complicated, $117.99, or just $117.90. And how about a 33% tip on that? What's that look like? Woo, almost 40 bucks. Pretty sweet. So we can type Q to quit. That ends that. Again, the while loop runs until a Q is typed to exit the program. Otherwise, you can figure out as many restaurant tips as you need. Since the servers are keeping you satisfied, share the wealth and keep them happy. It's just as simple as that, folks. Programming in computers, manipulating numbers and words on the screen, whether you're using Java, JavaScript, or Python, can be easy, can be learned by anyone, and should. Computers are everywhere. I've been using them my whole life. It's been not too long that I've dove into them to make them work for me and understand what makes them work. But here's proof. 3 languages, 1 tip calculator. Thanks for joining me on my Code Compare journey. Stay tuned for more, coming soon.